I believe it is time for oral questions. I recognize the Leader of His Majesty's Loyal Opposition.
Good morning, Speaker. Good morning, Speaker, and this question is for the Premier. Unfair, subjective, and not transparent. That is how the Auditor General described the call for development process for Ontario Place. The government is ponying up some serious cash for the Premier's vanity project. Hundreds of millions for a taxpayer-funded parking garage. $60 million so Therma could have a fake beach. $700 million to move the Ontario Science Centre so Therma could get a sweet deal. Why won't this government take this seriously? Does the Premier not think that wasting billions of taxpayer dollars is a big deal?
To reply for the government, the member for Brampton West and Parliament.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me begin by reading what the Auditor General confirmed to the reporters yesterday. We do not have any evidence of the Premier's office interfering in the process. She also confirmed the call for development process was never intended to be a structured procurement process, but more like a real estate transaction in which potential partners view the site and have more extensive discussions. Mr. Speaker, we welcome the recommendations provided in the report by the Auditor General, and we're working very closely with Infrastructure Ontario to implement those recommendations. Mr. Speaker, we remain focused on ensuring that every step of this revitalization reflects good governance, respect taxpayer dollars, and deliver long-term benefit for Ontarians. Mr. Speaker, it's worth noting that the opposition has consistently opposed progress, offering no concrete solutions or alternatives. Their approach is to criticize, while our approach is to build.
Supplementary question.
I tell you, Speaker, the people of Ontario are not buying it, but they sure are paying for it. Yeah. Yesterday, the minister could not even be bothered to answer for how, under her watch, this project got so out of control. Billions over budget, wasted hundreds of millions to close the Science Centre, handing over bags of taxpayer cash to subsidize a luxury spa company. Instead of taking responsibility, the minister made a civil servant face questions for her decisions. So will the Premier take responsibility, do the right thing, and fire his infrastructure minister?
Members will please take their seats. To reply, member for Brampton West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me read another response to the report by Infrastructure Ontario to the Auditor General. Auditor General found no evidence that there was any inappropriate contact between IO employees and IO's bidders. The goal was to take in ideas from across the globe and compare them on an apple to orange basis to see which of these ideas best align with the government's vision and would have the best benefit to taxpayers. Mr. Speaker, for far too long, Ontario Place was neglected, left to deteriorate, and underutilized. Our government took on the challenge to revitalize this iconic site and making it a thriving, accessible space for families, tourists, and for future generations to come. Mr. Speaker, again, the Leader of the Opposition may focus on criticism, but we are focused on results, focused on building infrastructure, creating jobs, fostering economic growth, and delivering spaces that people of this province will be proud of.
The final supplementary.
No, we're not buying it. The auditor's report makes it very clear that Therma was struggling financially. In fact, they're broke, right? They did not pass the financial test to be viable for this contract. And yet, despite warnings from staff at Infrastructure Ontario, the minister pushed through this deal and handed them billions in taxpayer dollars. Those funds are meant to build homes, hire doctors, fix our schools, not prop up a broke Austrian luxury spa company, Speaker. Why won't the minister do the right thing, take responsibility for wasting taxpayer dollars, and resign?
Members will please take their seats. The member for Brampton West.
Mr. Speaker, let me again take this opportunity to read what the Auditor General confirmed to the reporters. We do not have any evidence of the Premier's office interfering in the process, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition can criticize as much as she wants. Mr. Speaker, I drive by Ontario Place every morning, and it breaks my heart to see such indifference and neglect of our historic and iconic destination by a previous Liberal government and always supported by NDP. You know, Mr. Speaker, the mistake we made is the mistake to have a vision to bring back our iconic destinations back to life. And it is not merely iconic because it's a physical site. It is iconic because it has a special spot in the hearts and minds of the people of this province. And, Mr. Speaker, we will bring it back to life.
Stop the clock. Members will please take their seats. Government side will come to order. Independents will come to order. Order. Start the clock. Next question. Leader of the...
You know what breaks my heart? $700 million to move the Science Centre. $500 million to replace the trees that you tore out. $280 million to build a parking lot for this spa company. $346 million for site servicing, and a whole other phase that hasn't even been costed yet. This is now 5 times what this government initially projected, and it is going to cost us more than $2.2 billion. We have been sounding the alarm on this side for this project from the very start. But the minister has repeatedly refused to take any responsibility. Does the minister not believe that she is responsible for the mess that her ministry has made here?
I remind the members to make their comments through the chair. To reply, the member for Brampton West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me again read what the Auditor General confirmed to the reporters. We do not have any evidence of the Premier's office interfering in the process, Mr. Speaker. We will not take any lessons from the Leader of the Opposition when it comes to building infrastructure, Mr. Speaker. We are making unprecedented investments in infrastructure. Their legacy is voting against hospitals, voting against infrastructure, voting against hospitals, voting against projects like Highway 413, and Bradford Bypass, shutting down long-term care homes and schools, Mr. Speaker. The legacy of this Premier and this government is to build infrastructure, to support the population growth, to build infrastructure so that our future generations can be proud of, Mr. Speaker. And that is why we're bringing this remarkable destination like Ontario Place and Science Centre back to life, making it a remarkable world-class destination for people of all ages and wealth.
Supplementary question.
Blink twice over there if you need help, okay? Yeah. Speaker, people...
I didn't hear the comment, but I'm going to ask the... I've got to make your comments through the chair.
Speaker, people are worried. And I'll tell you what they're worried about. They're worried about how they're going to pay rent. They're worried about how they're going to...
Stop the clock. Okay. The government side will come to order. I need to be able to hear the member who has the floor. Start the clock. Leader of the Opposition has some time.
As I was saying, people are worried about how they're going to pay for groceries in this province, not how they're going to get a $100 pedicure in downtown Toronto. Instead of focusing on helping struggling Ontarians by building homes, by fixing schools, by hiring doctors, by making life more affordable, this minister and this Premier are choosing to use people's hard-earned tax dollars to help out a broke Austrian company.
Question.
Does the Premier think that he can waste billions of taxpayer dollars subsidizing this luxury spa company on Toronto's waterfront, tip the scales on the procurement process, and actually get away with it?
Member for Brampton West can reply.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I think the Leader of the Opposition needs some help because her popularity is declining every day. And, people of this province will never vote for NDP because the only time they were in power, Mr. Speaker, they brought the province down to its knees, Mr. Speaker, and people will never make that mistake again. Mr. Speaker, as the Auditor General noted, Ontario Place is a derelict site, a direct result of the opposition's previous inaction, Mr. Speaker, requiring extensive rebuilding under any scenario to remain operational. Mr. Speaker, this means hundreds of millions of dollars this estimated increase would still occur to keep the current site safe for use regardless of the redevelopment approach. Mr. Speaker, our government is finally taking action, Mr. Speaker, to make sure that our historic sites are back to life, making it a remarkable world-class destination so that the future generations can be proud of our government, Mr. Speaker.
Stop the clock. Stop the clock. Stop the clock. I'm going to remind members that interjections are out of order. It's getting increasingly noisy in here. I'm going to start calling you out individually if you repeatedly interject when you don't have the floor. Thank you. Start the clock. Final supplementary.
All right, Speaker, let's recap here. We've got a luxury spa that no one wants. Billions and billions of dollars over budget already. Contact that happened between bidders and ministry staff when that is prohibited. And a process that the Auditor General has called unfair, subjective, and not transparent. So my question to the Premier, Speaker, is what does a minister have to do to get fired around here?
Members will please take their seats. The member for Brampton West.
Mr. Speaker, as the Auditor General noted again, Ontario Place is a derelict site, a direct result of the opposition's previous inaction, requiring extensive rebuilding under any scenario to remain operational. Mr. Speaker, let's not forget that Ontario Place was left in state of neglect and disrepair for many years, including the previous Liberal government, and always supported by NDP. And they're equally responsible for this negligence, Mr. Speaker. The Leader of the opposition is all about criticism, but no vision, Mr. Speaker. What solutions did they bring to the table when they had the chance? Mr. Speaker, again, we inherited a site in decline, and we are the ones taking action to ensure Ontario Place is once again enjoyed by families, a place that people of this province can be proud of, Mr. Speaker, and the people of this province trust this government to get it done.
Member for Hamilton Mountain will come to order. The Minister of Transportation will come to order. The next question, the Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Speaker. Well, it gets even worse. Yesterday, the Auditor General revealed that this government is spending more than any Ontario government in history on advertising in a single year. Triple what was spent the year before. The auditor made it very clear that these ads primarily exist to promote the governing party. That's right, they are partisan ads. In opposition, the Conservatives railed against the Liberals' use of government funds for partisan ads. We remember that. The Minister of Health even tabled a bill on it. But in government, they're more than happy to follow the Liberals' lead. So my question to the Premier is, will you stop with the self-promotion and stop wasting Ontarians' money?
To reply for the government, the parliamentary assistant and member for Eglinton Lawrence.
Thank you, Speaker. Government advertisements inform people on important issues ranging from the economy, training programs for workers, breast cancer screening programs, winter driving safety, and awareness on post-secondary grant programs. Since taking office in 2018, the Auditor General has issued our government a clean audit opinion, unlike the former Liberal government, and that includes on our government advertising spend. It's important to note that over the past 20 years, there's been a comparable spend on advertising when adjusted for inflation, and any increases reflect inflation, larger population, multilingual advertising, and additional advertising mediums. But anyone just has to look at what is going on south of the border now to know how important government advertising is for the future of the province of Ontario. Our economy is critical to make sure people have jobs, to make sure we have a prosperous province, and this government will.
The member for Ottawa South will come to order. The member for St. Catharines will come to order. Supplementary question. Back to the Leader of the Opposition.
They are spending over $100 million on what the Auditor General says are, quote, factually inaccurate ads. You're telling the people of Ontario how good they have it while they're standing in line at the grocery store deciding which things they need to put back, right? People have to listen to these ads while they're waiting hours and hours in emergency rooms or sitting in congestion. They've got ads talking about how much they're building, but young families are losing their homes every day. You can have all the ads you want, but you cannot fool the people who experience the consequences of this government's neglect every single day. Speaker, why is this government selling a story to the public instead of delivering what they're promising?
Members will please take their seats. To reply, the Minister of Economic Development, Job Creation and Trade.
Let me tell you, Speaker, about some of those ads that are running internationally as well. First of all, our job is to bring business into Ontario, and we are marketing Ontario around the world, whether you're at an airport in Munich or watching a television station in the U.S. And Speaker, as a result of that media and our push last year, 137 international companies landed in Ontario last year. Speaker, they brought with them and invested $11 billion into Ontario and hired 12,200 people, Speaker. That is what's happening with our marketing around the world, Speaker. We will continue to push our message that Ontario is open for business and has everything a company needs to be successful.
The next question, the member for Thornhill.
Speaker, and my question is for the Minister of Economic Development and Job Creation and Trade. So the previous Liberal government's high tax policies left Ontario's auto sector on the brink of collapse. They wanted to get Ontario out of the manufacturing business because they didn't believe in Ontario work.
Member will take her seat. The member for Orleans will come to order. Member for Thornhill has the floor.
Thank you, Speaker. They would rather see cars and goods being made abroad rather than right here in our province by Ontario workers. Our government came into office. We knew we had to immediately reverse the course and fix the high taxes, the over-regulated business environment that the Liberals left us with. We lowered the costs across the board, and as a result, global automakers and parts suppliers have invested tens of billions of dollars in just the last few years. These companies could have gone anywhere in the world, but they chose Ontario. Speaker, can the minister please provide the House with an update on the tens of billions of dollars invested in Ontario by the auto sector?
Minister of Economic Development, Job Creation and Trade.
Thank you, Speaker. Well, as everyone now knows, we have landed $45 billion of auto and EV business in the province of Ontario in the last 4 years. Speaker, recently we attended Port Colborne, where Asahi Kasei broke ground on their $1.7 billion facility. This new facility will make a separator, Speaker, and it is an integral part of a lithium-ion battery. And they will hire 300 people in Port Colborne. Very good paying jobs that will land there. Speaker, this is Asahi Kasei's investment is all part of the $15 billion record-breaking $15 billion, largest investment in our history, from Honda Canada, who will build an integrated EV facility between making batteries, making cars, making the separator, making the cathode. Speaker, this is exactly the kind of business that we have landed here in Ontario.
Thank you. The member for Thornhill supplementary.
Thank you, Speaker, and thank you to the Minister for his dynamic work for the province of Ontario. The investments in Ontario, the investments that have been landed, underscore the competitive advantage that we have in the auto sector. We have everything automakers and part suppliers need to succeed: the best talent in the world, low costs, an abundance of clean and reliable energy, and so much more. You know, automakers, they recognize this, and that's why they're doubling down in Ontario, and they're doubling down in Thornhill and the riding of Thornhill, because we've got lots going on there as well. They see an automotive ecosystem that has been revitalized over the last 6 years, rewarding good-paying jobs. Auto manufacturing jobs are being created in the very same communities that the Liberals turned their backs on. So communities that directly felt the pain of the Liberal high-tax policies that chased away 300,000 jobs, manufacturing jobs.
Question.
Speaker, can the minister please share how Ontario's auto sector went from years of decline under the Liberals to being a place where every automaker and supplier wants to be today?
Minister of Economic Development, Job Creation and Trade.
Thank you, Speaker. You really do need to look back to where we were when we were elected, when we lost 300,000 manufacturing jobs, costs were soaring. All of the automakers told the Premier and I that the cost of doing business in Ontario was too high. And we did everything we could. We pulled on every lever to lower the cost by $8 billion, and that resulted in a couple of things, Speaker. Number one, 850,000 people were put to work by us lowering the cost of doing business by $8 billion. Reuters announced that of the $300 billion being spent in the EV sector, zero was coming to Canada. We turned that around and went from zero to $45 billion, Speaker. In all of the United States, they have landed $119 billion, yet here in one province of Ontario, we've landed $45 billion, Speaker. That's the power.
The next question, the member for Oshawa.
Thank you, Speaker. My question is to the Premier. The Auditor General's damning report is further proof that the Therma deal at Ontario Place is a rip-off. Work has not even started yet on the luxury spa, and the cost to taxpayers has already ballooned to a whopping $2.2 billion. That is more than Therma will be paying over the course of their entire 95-year lease. So that is the equivalent of $400 from every household in Ontario for a spa that most people will never step foot in. Will the Premier apologize for this ballooning scandal and fire the Minister of Infrastructure?
Members will please take their seats. Reply, the member for Brampton West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Again, as the Auditor General noted, Ontario Place is a derelict site, a direct result of the opposition's previous inaction, requiring extensive rebuilding under any scenario to remain operational. Mr. Speaker, I'll also read a quote from the Auditor General. Quote, "Time has gone by, and so things are more expensive. So the renovation cost would go up as well." Unquote. Mr. Speaker, for far too long, Ontario Place was neglected by the previous Liberal government, always supported by NDP, Mr. Speaker, and as I said, the Leader of the Opposition or the members may focus on criticism, but we are focused on results, focused on building infrastructure, creating jobs, fostering economic growth, and delivering spaces that people of this province can be proud of. Mr. Speaker, our government is committed to addressing any concerns raised in the report while continuing to move forward with this transformative project.
Well said.
The member for Spadina Fort York.
I don't know if people were listening, but the Conservative member just said that costs are going to go up. So the Auditor General report that $2.2 billion taxpayer subsidy to Therma is not the final tally. That it's going to go up from there. You know, it is standard practice for landlords to ask for first and last month's rent and a credit check when they're leasing a property. But Therma had less than €1 million in the bank when it was awarded the lease at Ontario Place. Not enough to meet the financial test and to take on a project like this. Apparently, this government is willing to lease 155 acres of the most valuable public parkland in Canada without the financial requirement to lease a one-bedroom apartment. Will the government cancel the Therma deal and stop hemorrhaging taxpayer dollars?
Members will take their seats. The government House Leader will come to order. The member for Brampton West can reply.
Mr. Speaker, and once again, the opposition is merely criticizing this issue, Mr. Speaker, because the same Liberal government, led by Catherine Wynne, stood in front of the Ontario Place in 2014 and proclaimed their vision to revitalize Ontario Place. Now NDP members and Liberals are upset because we're picking up the pieces of their failed project and getting the job done, Mr. Speaker. As I've said again and again, this neglect will not continue under the watch of this Premier and this government, because we believe in getting things done and built, not neglected, Mr. Speaker, and that is why we're making making Ontario Place a remarkable destination for people of all ages to enjoy, Mr. Speaker, and only this government has the power to get it done, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. The next question, the member for Scarborough, Agincourt.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Speaker, my question is to the Minister of Transportation. For far too long, the previous Liberal government said no to building new highways for our growing population. This gridlock is hurting the people in my great riding of Scarborough, Agincourt. Speaker, this gridlock took time away from families and added to the cost of delivering groceries and goods. Unlike the Liberals and the NDP, we know that we cannot continue with the status quo. Our government is taking major action to build new roads and highways across our province. Under our government's leadership, we are making much-needed investment so that people can spend more time with their families and less time stuck in highway gridlock. Speaker, can the minister please tell the House how our government is tackling gridlock? Thank you.
Member for Hastings, Lennox and Addington, and parliamentary assistant.
Thank you, Speaker, and thank you for the question for the member from Scarborough, Agincourt. Speaker, the answer is actually clear. We need to build. We need to build new highways. We need to build more public transit. It's quite simple. And Speaker, that is exactly what we're doing. We are building. Projects like the 413 and the Bradford Bypass will help to cut commute times. Projects like the Ontario Line will get people out of crowded subway trains. Speaker, we know that the Liberals and the NDP, they couldn't get anything built. They didn't seem to want to. But under Premier Ford, we are building across this entire province. Thank you, Speaker.
Supplementary question.
Speaker, the Bonnie Crombie Liberals are still ignoring common sense solutions, just like they did under Kathleen Wynne. They are saying no to projects like Highway 413. They are saying no to projects like the Bradford Bypass. They have no solutions to tackle gridlock. Speaker, doing nothing will only make gridlock worse. We are the only party with a plan to tackle gridlock. Our government is getting it done and rebuilding Ontario for individuals and families in my riding of Scarborough, Agincourt and the rest of Ontario. Speaker, can the minister please share what our government's plan is to tackle gridlock?
Parliamentary assistant, member for Hastings, Lennox and Addington.
Thank you, Speaker. In answer, our government's plan is to keep our province moving. Highway 413 will connect Highways 400, 427, 410, 407 and the 401, giving people more options to get around. The Bradford Bypass will get cars and trucks off the rural roads and provide a safer connection between the 404 and the 400. And Speaker, the Building Highways Faster Act will cut red tape and designate these highways as priority projects. So Speaker, we're also building the largest expansion of public transit in Canadian history, ever. Okay? GO expansion will bring two-way, all-day GO service across the region. Again, getting people out of cars and onto the GO train.
Response.
Speaker, our plan gives people more options. Our plan gets shovels in the ground faster, and our plan will keep Ontario moving. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you. The next question, the member for Toronto Centre.
Thank you very much, Speaker, and through you. The Auditor General's report confirmed this government's decision to close consumption and treatment services was not properly planned, nor was it based on any actual evidence. Since the government did not consult even Toronto Paramedics, which is the busiest and largest outfit in Ontario, about the closure of these sites, they obviously don't know that Toronto Paramedics already spends 60% of their time waiting in hospital driveways to offload their patients to hospital care. The Chief of Toronto Paramedic Service expects there to be an even larger burden on first responders and hospital staff, leading to higher costs and worse hospital access for all Ontarians. Will this government reverse CTS closures and work with paramedics and healthcare providers on evidence-based solutions to address the overdose crisis?
To respond, the Deputy Premier and Minister of Health.
Thank you, Speaker. What our government will do is offer hope. Offer hope for people who are addicted to these deadly the opioids. We are ensuring through transitioning from consumption sites into heart hubs where there is going to be services available in social services, in health care, in addiction and mental health supports. We are offering a pathway out of addiction, and the Auditor General actually said, and I will quote, "Investing more in treatment, recovery and housing is a positive development toward addressing the opioid crisis." We will get this done because we know that you cannot simply ensure or allow people to continue to use drugs. We need to give them hope and a pathway out, and that's what we're doing with our Heart Hub models. Thank you.
Supplementary question, the member for Windsor West.
Thank you. Back to the Premier. The Minister of Health would know if she actually did consultation or looked at data that CTS has already provided access to all of those supports and services for the people that use them. Speaker, the Auditor General's report showed us that this government is taking away key public health services in the middle of an addiction crisis and against best evidence. The report showed that there was no data, no planning, and no public consultation utilized to justify the government closing consumption and treatment services sites across Ontario. There was no impact evaluation and no evidence-based assessment done to justify the decision to close CTS sites and switch to heart hubs. The government is choosing to put lives and communities at risk while putting additional strain on our already under-resourced emergency rooms and first responders. Speaker, the Premier continues to disregard evidence and healthcare expert advice, instead choosing to fail Ontarians, sometimes with deadly consequences. Will the Premier finally implement evidence-based solutions and reverse his decision to close consumption and treatment services sites?
Members will please take their seats. The Minister of Health.
Thank you, Speaker. Perhaps the member opposite needs to speak to the families that live near these consumption and treatment sites, where we see parents literally avoiding taking their children to public parks. Why, Speaker? Because they're afraid that they're going to have to deal with and walk over dirty needles. We are listening to the parents, to the family members, to schools, to daycares, to early on centers who know that it is inappropriate to have consumption and treatment sites within 20 meters of a school or a daycare or an early on center. Those are the experts we're listening to, people who are living in the community, and we are listening and ensuring that our Heart Hub models are actually going to offer hope and a pathway out of addictions. Thank you, Speaker.
Member for Hamilton Mountain will come to order. The member for Windsor West will come to order. The next question, the member Government House Leader will come to order. Next question, the member for Scarborough-Guildwood.
Mr. Speaker, my question is for the Premier. I want to take a moment to commend the SHN Foundation for their remarkable Love Scarborough campaign, one of the best campaigns which has successfully raised over $172 million. They saw a healthcare crisis coming and took matters into their own hands. Those donated funds significantly contributed to the development of all 3 hospitals, including the $25 million for UTSC Medical School. Clearly, this government is not adequately funding our healthcare system. In Scarborough-Guildwood, there are 19,000 residents without a family doctor. 29,000 in Scarborough face same challenge. Over 3,000 children in my riding are without a family doctor. This adds massive pressures to our ERs. Mr. Speaker, my question for the Premier is how can he continue to support a minister who is clearly struggling with the critical responsibility of managing our healthcare system?
The member for Perth Wellington will come to order. The Associate Minister for Small Business will come to order. The Minister for Long-Term Care will come to order. The Government House Leader will come to order. The next response, Minister of Health.
Thank you, Speaker. You know, it's hard when the member opposite continuously and regularly votes against investments in our own community, whether that's an expansion of the Scarborough Health Network, whether that's primary care expansion through Taboo, whether that is expansions in the medical school in Scarborough. We see those investments, and your constituents and your community sees when you vote against them. And I think it's really important to remind the member opposite that when we make investments to expand primary care, to offer additional education opportunities, whether it's for nurses, nurse practitioners, or physicians, that the member opposite regularly and consistently votes against those investments. That's what the good people of Scarborough should be looking and asking their member why they're doing that.
A number of members on both sides of the House are repeatedly ignoring my requests to come to order. I'm going to move to warnings if they persist. Supplementary question.
Mr. Speaker, does the minister live under a rock? Let me educate the members of these shocking and devastating numbers that cannot be ignored. 2,000 people a day are being treated in waiting rooms, hallways, and stairwells. ER wait times have skyrocketed by 48%. 11,000 people died. Let me say it again. 11,000 people died waiting for surgeries or diagnostic procedures. 2.5 million, I'm going to repeat it again, 2.5 million Ontarians do not have a family doctor. Mr. Speaker, my question to the Premier, what is the purpose of appointing a Minister of Health if the Minister is incapable of delivering results or getting anything done?
Minister of Health may reply.
You can throw all the insults you want. I'm getting the job done, and we are making the investments in the province of Ontario. When I look at the investments that have happened in Scarborough since 2018, whether it is expansions to the Scarborough Health Network, whether it is expansions in primary care through Taboo, whether it is expansions in ensuring that we have a medical school satellite operating in Scarborough, those are the changes that are going to impact the people of Ontario for decades to come, and I am proud of the investments that Premier Ford and our government has made in Scarborough and across Ontario. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. The next question, the member for Sault Ste. Marie.
Well, Speaker, it's getting hot in here. My question is for the Associate Minister of Forestry and Forest Products. Ontario is home to some of the world's most beautiful, productive forests. These forests are not only a source of pride for us, but also a cornerstone of our economy. The forestry sector has deep roots in Ontario's history, providing good-paying jobs for generations of people, sustaining families in our rural, northern, and Indigenous communities. At the same time, our forests are key to our environment, and responsible stewardship ensures that they remain healthy and sustainable for future generations. Under our government, Speaker, we have seen a strong commitment to preserving the health of our forests. Speaker, can the Associate Minister please tell us what Ontario is doing to maintain healthy forests while supporting this important sector throughout the province of Ontario. Please tell us all the great work that is being done to continue to protect this sector.
The Associate Minister of Forestry and Forest Products.
Thank you, Speaker, and thank you to the member from Sault Ste. Marie for that important question. The health and sustainability of our forests is essential to the environmental well-being of Ontario's resources. Responsible stewardship and sustainable development of Ontario's forests are at the cornerstone of what my ministry does. The forest industry in Ontario generated $18 billion in revenue from manufactured goods and services in 2020 and supported more than 148,000 direct and indirect jobs in 2021. My ministry has implemented the forest sector strategy, which will create opportunities for further economic prosperity and generate high-paying, quality jobs, while supporting Indigenous, rural, and northern communities that depend on the forest sector. Speaker, yesterday I met with the Ontario Forest Industry Association, continue our collaboration with leaders in the industry. Our plan will continue Ontario's history of sustainable development and position the province as a world leader in making and selling forest products from renewable, sustainable, and responsibly managed forests.
Supplementary question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you very much to the Associate Minister for that response. Ontario's forestry sector is extremely vital to our province, providing jobs, supporting families, helping communities grow. Northern and rural communities depend on this industry. But the terrible Trudeau-Crombie carbon tax is making it impossible for the sector. It's making harder and harder and harder for those to be able to continue to do this business in a meaningful way. It drives up the cost for businesses. It's hurting families who rely on forestry jobs. Our government has shown strong leadership in standing up for workers and businesses. We have supported programs that lower costs and protect jobs while also reducing emissions. Speaker, can the Associate Minister please tell us how Ontario is helping the forestry sector deal with the impact of this regressive, terrible, terrible tax while keeping this vital industry strong?
Associate Minister of Forestry and Forest Products.
Thank you again to the member for that question. I'm proud to say that we are committed to mitigating the impact on the forest sector from the fallout of the Trudeau-Crombie carbon tax. Speaker, the Liberals have gotten too comfortable in saying no. No to supporting Northern Ontario businesses. No to building homes and key infrastructure. No to reducing emissions while creating jobs. When they said no, we stepped up. Building programs to support businesses in the forestry sector, helping to lower costs and create jobs, all while managing carbon emissions. Ontario fully implemented the Emissions Performance Standards program in 2022. This amended program will help Ontario achieve emissions reductions at a lower cost to industry than the federal program. Our gas tax cuts save the forestry industry $2.8 million per year in hauling transportation costs. It's time for the federal Liberals to do their part. It's time for them to scrap the tax.
Thank you. The next question, the member for University Rosedale.
Thank you, Speaker. My question is to the Premier. No protocol, no rationale, haphazard. That is how the Auditor General describes the Housing Minister's MZO process. The province's MZO process has become rife with preferential treatment. That's also from the Auditor General. This government is under RCMP criminal investigation for giving preferential treatment to a developer. My question is to the Premier. What is it going to take for the government to change their ways and finally do some honest work for the people of Ontario?
Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Look, I don't think the auditor said that at all. I think what the auditor highlighted and what the report highlights is that the government wanted to move very quickly to get shovels in the ground after 15 long years of Liberal ineptitude supported by the NDP, where housing was failing. What we saw with the policies that we brought in, Mr. Speaker, is that we had the highest housing starts in decades. We had the highest purpose-built rental starts ever in the province's history, and we wanted to move very quickly in order to do that. Now, of the 19 recommendations that the auditor put in her report, I'm very happy to highlight to the House that, in fact, 17 of those recommendations were actually put in place by the ministry months ahead of the auditor's report. But again, Mr. Speaker, what the report highlights, again, is that we inherited a failing system and that we wanted to move quickly to ensure that we could get shovels in the ground, and we will continue to move very quickly to get shovels in the ground, Mr. Speaker. It's my priority, and I'll continue to use that tool when it's in the best interest of the people of the province of Ontario.
Supplementary question.
Speaker, the minister can tell all the stories he wants about building homes, but here are the facts. Housing starts are down 18%. Fewest homes built since 1955. And if we're talking about the Auditor General's report and MZOs, this is what they're saying. The MZO process is being used by the Premier to help his developer friends. It is not being used to build affordable housing. The Premier still cannot bring himself to say yes to a City of Toronto request for an MZO to build affordable housing in Willowdale. It has been years. Speaker, when is this Premier going to learn that developers and lobbyists should not be running the show?
Members will please take their seats. Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing.
Speaker, I would welcome the member to table for this House right now on what page the auditor said what she just said is in that report, because that is not in the report, Mr. Speaker, but that is the NDP, right? That is the NDP. Make it up as you go along. Ask me for MZOs, but then criticize the MZO process, right, Mr. Speaker? This is a member who praised the MZOs that I was giving out, Mr. Speaker. Speaker, I have said that I'll continue to use the tool when it is in the best interest of the people of the province of Ontario. And that interest is building homes, Mr. Speaker. That interest is building long-term care homes. The leader of the Liberal Party begged us for an MZO so that we could build a long-term care home. I obliged and made sure that we had that MZO, Mr. Speaker. I'll continue to use the tool because for 15 years, the Liberals, supported by the NDP, made it next to impossible to get shovels in the ground. And when they took 2 million hectares, when we all decided that 2 million hectares of land should be preserved, they did not then remove the obstacles to getting shovels in the ground. They didn't build subways, they didn't build schools, they didn't rebuild hospitals. That is all the work we're doing, and I'll use the tool because it is in the best interest of Ontario, and that's what...
The member for Ottawa South will come to order. Stop the clock. Stop the clock. The member for Spadina Fort York will come to order. The member for St. Catharines will come to order. Start the clock. The next question, the member for Kingston and the Islands.
In 2020, the Kingston Region Physician Review, led by RN Deborah Lefebvre and MDs Elaine Ma and Veronica Lignini, who all donated their time for that work, found that 30% of our family doctors plan to retire over the next decade. Today, we're still looking at 1 out of 6 family doctors retiring over the next 5 years. Now, leaked Ministry of Health data says 3 million Ontarians could lose their family doctor in the next 5 years due to retirement. In the latest Physician Services Agreement, a 1-year, 10% across-the-board compensation increase was awarded by an arbitrator who called this government's offer completely unrealistic. It's clear that family doctors and family medicine residents are leaving to work in other fields, while 4.1 million people are not attached to a family doctor. In the ongoing Physician Services Agreement negotiations, couldn't this government make a deal that favors family doctors?
To reply, the Deputy Premier and Minister of Health.
Thank you, Speaker. You know, I listen to these questions and then I look at the facts and the data. The data says that Ontario leads Canada in the number of physicians and patients attached. Over just almost 90%. That's leading Canada, Speaker. Now, what does that mean? It means we're going to do more because we know that there is more work to do. I see all of the changes that we have been able to do, working with the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Ontario to quickly assess, review, and ultimately license when appropriate internationally educated physicians. What has that done? It's actually made for 3 years in a row historic high numbers of internationally educated physicians who want to practice and live in the province of Ontario. We are making these investments because, with the greatest of respect, the last time the Liberal government was in power, they cut the number of medical seats available in the province of Ontario by 50 every year. 50 may not sound like a lot until you start to see the cumulative effect of almost 450 students, young people, who had to go elsewhere or choose a different...
Thank you. Thank you very much. Order. The supplementary question.
On November 20th, I asked about family medicine residents not choosing to practice family medicine. The minister said, quote, "I think we're doing just fine in Ontario." How about when your kid is sick in Ontario? On November the 1st, Kingston's Children's Outpatient Clinic reached capacity at 11:30 in the morning. They triaged patients for only 2.5 hours and then closed their doors. Afterwards, at least 20 more families showed up. Do you know why this happened? Because more than 250,000 children do not have a family doctor. At the outpatient clinic, closing early is the new normal. On November the 25th, the doctor posted pictures on social media of the clinic's lineup of sick kids going out the door, kids down the hall, and kids around the corner. Is the minister proud of what hallway medicine looks like in Conservative Ontario?
Order. The Minister of Health.
To support the periwinkle expansion that we announced in February of this year, where we are seeing individuals in Kingston finally being connected to primary care practitioners. Where are we seeing those supports? Where is the member opposite when those investments are being made in the province of Ontario? I continue to say, look at the numbers and the facts. The CARMS data shows that we have 100% matching for residencies positions in the province of Ontario. Again, historic, twice in a year where every single residency position available has been matched. Those are medical students who want to practice in the province of Ontario, and we are giving them those opportunities because we've expanded the opportunities, unlike the Liberal Party previously, who was cutting those same positions.
Member for Kingston and the Islands will come to order. The next question, the member for Markham, Unionville.
Thank you, Speaker. My question is for the Minister of Tourism, Culture and Gaming. Ontario's arts sector contributes significantly to our economy by providing employment, driving tourism spending, and stimulating innovation across various industries. We are fortunate here in Ontario to have agencies like Ontario Arts Council that supports artists and cultural groups, helping to create a vibrant art community. Speaker, art enriches our lives by building a sense of community and promoting cultural understanding. We must continue to champion this important sector so that Ontario can remain a hub for creativity and art. Speaker, can the Minister please inform the House on the crucial role of Ontario Arts Council has within our arts community and the significant economic contributions they make to our great province?
The Minister of Tourism, Culture and Gaming.
Thank you, Speaker. Ontario Arts Council is awesome, and I'm not just saying that because they're sitting right there. In fact, a couple of weeks ago, Speaker, I was at the Aga Khan Museum to discuss the findings of their first ever economic assessment of the arts in Ontario. It was a privilege to join them and to join their chair, Simon Foster, who had me do a remarkable fireside chat where I learned a lot. Did you know, Speaker, that organizations that received annual support from the OAC contribute $1 billion to Ontario's gross domestic product, showcasing the powerful role that arts play right here in the economic landscape of Ontario. For every dollar invested by the OAC, it generates $25 in other sources of revenue, underlining the multiplier effects of arts funding. In 2022, Ontario's culture sector provided more jobs than industries such as real estate, auto manufacturing, forestry, and mining combined. A fiscal powerhouse. I want to thank the OAC for their hard work. We're proud to support them with $60 million in operation.
Thank you. The supplementary question.
Speaker, thanks to the Minister for his thoughtful response. Ontario's film and television industries play a significant role in our province. These sectors have become essential components of Ontario's arts landscape and economic strength, and we owe much of their growth to the dedicated efforts of agencies like Ontario Creators. These important agencies drive economic growth, investments and teamwork in Ontario's creative industries, including music, book publishing, magazines, film, TV, and digital media. Their work not only supports domestic growth, but also promotes Ontario's creative industry on the global stage. Speaker, can the Minister please inform the House on how our government is working with Ontario Creates to keep Ontario as one of the most competitive and dynamic markets in the world for film, television, and digital media production?
Minister of Tourism, Culture and Gaming.
Yes, thank you, Speaker. You know, Ontario Creates is awesome, and I'm not just saying that because they're sitting right here. They play a pivotal role in shaping our economy, and the Minister of Economic Development, Job Creation and Trade just asked me if I starred in Kim's Convenience. I did not, Speaker, but there are many great shows that are filmed right here in Ontario. Think of Crave, Shoresy, filmed right here in Sudbury, Handmaid's Tale. Season 4 is filming in Toronto right now. Ginny in Georgia, it's a drama that's filmed in Cobourg. And Hot Frosty, a feel-good Christmas movie that is being filmed in Brockville, Ontario. Speaker, it's a long list, and that's why in the 2024 budget we invested more than $1 billion to support Ontario's screen-based industry tax credits. Speaker, when you're in this role, sometimes you have to look past the noise at what's working. That's exactly what we're doing. Thank you to Ontario Creates. Lights, camera, action.
Member for Toronto St. Paul's will come to order. The next question, the member for Ottawa Centre.
Thank you, Speaker. My question is for the Premier. 2 weeks ago, I informed this House that the cost of a seniors bus pass in Ottawa was set to double due to operational funding cuts that our city was experiencing, a $120 million financial hole our mayor has talked about. Thankfully, the seniors of my city in Ottawa stood up loudly and opposed that move. They have reversed that decision, and I was proud to support them. But now, Speaker, unfortunately, we have another problem. Oh, no. College and university students right now are facing a 100% increase on January 1st, 2025, and planned increases to their UPass. That's a serious problem, Speaker, because at post-secondary campuses across Ottawa, Algonquin College, La Cité, St. Paul University, University of Ottawa, Carleton University, the levels of student poverty are atrocious. The numbers that I've seen are ridiculous. So I want to know why students, post-secondary students in the City of Ottawa, should be paying for the lack of funding coming from this House.
To reply, the Minister of Colleges and Universities.
Thank you, Speaker. If it was up to the opposition, they would raise tuition to significant levels. We've frozen tuition. We've actually decreased tuition by 10%. I don't need to remind you of the short record that you had in government and how significant tuition went up. It went up 3 times the rate of inflation, Speaker. Speaker, they cannot be trusted with the affordability of Ontarians across the province, Speaker. They talk a good talk, but ultimately they will love to raise taxes, Speaker. We are the government that has not raised one tax as well as tuition. We are worried about the affordability of our students, and that's why we have frozen tuition until 2027.
Supplementary question.
Thank you for the response from the Minister. What also appears to be frozen is the amount of transit funding coming into the City of Ottawa.
Here, here.
But what I find disturbing, Speaker, is what this government is prepared to spend money on. I'm looking at a Premier's office that has increased in size from 2019, $2.9 million, 2023, $6.9 million. I'm looking at, according to the the Auditor General's latest report, government advertising that is now $133 million. That is more than we are short for transit in the City of Ottawa, Speaker. So student unions in our city, they signed an agreement with OC Transpo, Speaker, and that agreement very clearly says fare increases cannot increase by more than 2.5% a year. But right now in the city has gone to those student unions and said, expect 5% increase because we're not getting enough love from Queen's Park. So my question for this House, my question from all of us here, will this government do what Bill Davis used to do when he was a Conservative Premier of this province, fund transit 50-50, give the municipalities the funding they reserve so students in poverty don't have to pay the cost for this government's lack of action?
The Associate Minister of Auto Theft and Bail Reform will come to order. Minister of Long-Term Care will come to order. The Minister of Colleges and Universities may reply.
Speaker, I'll tell you what we're not going to do. We're not going to do what the Bob Rae government did and put it on the backs of the students, Speaker. Speaker, when the NDP were in power for, again, that short period of time, tuition went up 36%. Inflation was 13%, Speaker. What I would recommend is that member do his job better and speak to the City of Ottawa and tell them to stick to their agreement, Speaker. Unfortunately, the City of Ottawa has decided to renege on their agreement, Speaker. But ultimately, Speaker, with our tuition cut, we are truly hyper-focused on the affordability of students, Speaker. We have kept that tuition freeze until 2027, Speaker. Unfortunately, that member does not agree with our tuition freeze, Speaker. They voted against it. But you know what? We will stick to ensuring that tuition is affordable for our students, Speaker. But again, I ask that member to speak to the City of Ottawa and tell them to agree to their agreement and stick to their agreement, Speaker.
The member for Hamilton West, Ancaster Dundas will come to order. The member for Ottawa South, Ottawa Centre will come to order. The member for St. Catharines will come to order. The next question, the member for Cambridge.
Thank you, Speaker. My question is for the Minister of Sport. Speaker, wanting our children to live healthy and active lives should not be a partisan issue. That's why it's so disappointing that the independent Liberals and the opposition NDP would vote against measures that make it easier for constituents to stay active within their communities. Speaker, our sport and recreation facilities help promote community participation, foster healthier and more active lifestyles for families. Our government's working along with municipal partners, showing leadership by ensuring that our children and youth have access to these vital programs. Speaker, can the minister elaborate on what our government is doing to ensure that Ontario families can stay active in their communities?
Minister of Sport.
Thank you, Speaker, and I'd like to thank the member from Cambridge for the question, because he knows, as we know, that sport plays an important role in everyone's life, especially young people. So when we talk about building a better province through sport, we're not joking around. We are dead serious, Speaker. Our government is investing $200 million over the next 3 years in the new Community Sport and Recreation Infrastructure Fund, and that will help repair facilities and build new facilities for Ontarians across our province. All of our ridings in our province will benefit from this. So it's great across the board, Speaker, and it will help generations stay healthier longer and also help health care. So we've spoken to, and I've spoken to stakeholders across the province, and they've said with enthusiasm this is a game changer, Mr. Speaker, and we are excited to be able to initiate this and get moving. And I've talked to a number of people from members opposite that they are sport supporters and volunteer in their communities. Mr. Speaker, I just like the next time something like this comes along, I'd like, other than those 2 or 3 people, for everyone else to get in the game and vote yes when something like this comes along.
That concludes our question period for this afternoon.